So today I'm talking about how I made an Ikea terrarium into a Victorian dollhouse, greenhouse / conservatory. So I'm going to put the time that you can skip ahead to if you just want the tutorial right here. But if you'd like to stick around and see how this thing came to be, then listen in. So this all started when my husband and I went to the Waterford Antique Market, which in my opinion is the best antique market in southern Ontario. And I found these three dollhouse miniatures. One was a cabinet, one was a piano, and I soon found that people had been using these Ikea Socker, S-O-C-K-E-R, greenhouses that are about $20, and they've made little dollhouse scenes in them. They look like one room in the dollhouse. But they were doing modern dollhouses. That was all that I had seen, and I was like, I don't know if I really want that, because the outside of the greenhouse is not that attractive. It's just like it's white painted metal with plastic instead of glass. And so I kind of tossed away the idea. But then I went and looked at the greenhouse and I was like, you know what? I think that if I were to make a few adjustments to this, I could make this look like a Wardian case. For those of you who don't know what a Wardian case is, it was invented in the 1830s by Dr. Nathaniel Bagshaw Ward. That's a really fun name. It was an early terrarium, and it was basically used originally to transport exotic plants from more tropical destinations to Europe and to other places around the world, because these sealed cases would have their own temperate environments in them, and so it would allow the tropical plants to grow more easily inside the greenhouses on their long ship journeys to wherever they were going. Wardian cases were also essential because they aided in the growing craze of orchidelirium. Yes, you heard that right, orchidelirium. So orchidelirium was when people started going crazy for orchids, like searching for them, discovering them, housing them in their homes, in their Wardian cases, because orchids are very picky and they need their own special environments to grow in, and so people would put them in their Wardian cases. But there was also pteridomania, which is not spelled how you think it is, which was the fern craze. So people were going crazy for orchids and ferns, and Wardian cases helped out making sure they grew all right. Now you may think this is strange, because Victorians are seen as being very, here yes, we're Victorians, we're very prim and proper. But the truth is that Victorians invented a Christmas game called Hot Cockles, where one guest put their head in the lap of another guest, and the rest of the guests took turns kicking the person who was lying down in the butt, and the person who was lying down had to guess who was kicking them in the butt. The takeaway from this is that Victorians were horny and very strange. So, what do you expect? But anyways, outside of the history lesson, so that's when I decided I would combine my dollhouse idea with the Wardian case and put a Victorian conservatory / greenhouse inside of my Ikea terrarium. And I think it turned out pretty well. So I'll let you go ahead and see how I did it. Please give it a try yourself. I would love to see how / if other people do it. And yeah, so let's go have some fun. So first things first, other than that I'm the realist, is that you're going to need two different types of paint. The ones that I used are this folk art brushed metal brushed bronze, and this folk art chocolate brown multi-surface metallic acrylic paint. I used about equal parts of each, combined them together to get the nice brass finish on my greenhouse. I also used it to brush the outside of the flower stems that I used for the bars. And in order to achieve this sort of color, I did probably about 4 coats on every single one of these surfaces. And I think it turned out pretty well. It actually adheres to the metal quite easily and looks really nice and shiny. Up next is this scrapbook paper. I used this for the back wall because it looks like a brick wall, obviously, but I also used the marble printed one for the floor. And in order to get the floor looking like this, all I did was use the good old PVA glue, otherwise known as white glue to us Canadians, and brushed it onto the floor before I put it down, and then put the scrap paper down, and then put more white glue over top, painted it on. And for the back wall here, all I did was cut out the shape I desired with the scrapbook paper, and then I just hot glued it at the top and at the bottom. The next thing that I probably used the most were these wire stems for flowers. Got them at Dollarama, as you can see, come on focus, for $1.25. And all I did was cut them to the length I needed them to be for my terrarium, and then I painted them with the color combination that I just talked about, the same one that I used for the rest of the greenhouse. And then once those were painted, I went and glue gunned them into position, and they worked splendidly well. Hi, you can see me in the reflection, because they look exactly like Wardian case bars. These are the materials that I used to make the settee. It's basically just scrap fabric that I had laying around from my Sybil Crawley cosplay. This is some burlap that I used. And dowels, that's what they're called. These dowels that I got at the dollar store, in addition to these strange foam pieces that I had left over from when I had fake succulents. So those are what I used for that. Some other things you're going to need. I used the preserved moss from Dollarama, and I put it basically everywhere that I didn't want to show any sort of joins or seams in my dollhouse. I used hot glue like it was going out of style, basically used it to attach everything together. This is some polymer clay that you bake. I used that for almost all of my plants and their pots. This is a mini plastic pot that I used to model all of my pots after. I also used some sturdy paper to make the book that I have lying on the settee. And this is some tea-stained paper that I used a tiny little fragment of. Where's the little fragment? There it is, to make my 2 music sheets. Other thing I had some paper roses that I got from the dollar store that I put around everywhere. Behold, my craft mess. So it's a few days later, and what I've done is I've made me some little mini terracotta pots. Aren't they cute? Which I basically just made a tube out of polymer clay, and then made the base slightly thinner than the top, added a band around the top. And yes, I realize it doesn't look like an actual terracotta pot, but you know what? It's close enough. And then the little paper roses, no, I did not make those myself. I am not that talented. They had them at the dollar store. They're just these little paper roses that I did a whole bunch of. And yeah, you know what? I'll show you the progress on the dollhouse so far. Can't remember, oh, that's me unplugging my phone, sorry. Can't remember what I said the last time. So I went ahead and I covered all of the joins where you could see the white bits of the old paint poking through, and I covered them with moss. So now it just looks like a very cute little mossy area. I also did the bottoms down here, tops up there. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do no, I don't think I'm gonna do the inside of the lid. I think that's the little metal bits at the top are a little too high, so it doesn't close properly. Oops, sorry, but that's okay. So now I've got a whole bunch of little rose pots, which are very cute, and I'm going to make a few more of the little rose pots. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm done. What am I talking about? What I'm doing next is I'm working with the polymer clay to make some snake plants. Are snake plants Victorian? I don't know. Am I gonna check? I don't really care. They're very easy to make. So, these are my little leaves for the snake plant. I'm gonna bake them, but I realized that I should bake the plant at the same time as I bake the pot. So now I'm going ahead and making some weird little snake-looking green plants inside of terracotta pots. But for the snake plant, I'm not going to bake the pot. That's why. I'm all over the place here, I'm sorry. Welcome back to the craft mess. So I got these foam squares with some sort of fake succulent thing that I had. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these together like this, and then probably put this one like this. Sorry, better camera angle there. And I'm going to try and make it look like a wicker settee. I've got some burlap here. Don't know if it's actually going to look like wicker, but I'm going to put some sort of reinforcing wire across the top so we can make that little bowed back, but also cover this in burlap so that it looks like wicker. part of the dollhouse that I'm struggling with. So I'm trying to make myself a little wicker chair. Problem is that I'm using burlap, and so it keeps fraying at the bottom. But you know what? That's okay. What I did was I used 2 foam bricks, like this one. I got them with, I think they were fake succulents. That's what this came with. And I hot glued them together, and then I used another one for the top here. Hot glued some fabric around there, because you don't need to sew it. And then I hot glued the burlap around the bottom. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 2 layers of burlap and try to make like a little, I don't know what it's called, like a halo of wicker around the top here. Because it doesn't look too bad right now, right? Yeah, that's kind of cute. Cute little rustic Victorian chair that doesn't actually look that Victorian. Yes, so we'll see how that goes. It's another day, and I think I'm almost done. So I finished my little lounge chair, wicker chair type thing. It's a little rugged, but you know what? I don't really care. It's very cute, and I'm actually shockingly proud of it. This fabric I had left over from my Sybil cosplay, so yeah. And I actually just used hot glue to reinforce this and make it a bit more stiff. I was trying to think of something to put around the edges. I don't really have any ribbon to use. But yeah, you can see the ugly underside under there. Other than that, I think it's pretty cute. And yes, I am well aware, sorry for the bad camera angle, that my little dollhouse is quite busy, but that's how I like it. So, so now what I'm doing, I added the piano that I got from an antique store in there. It's not an antique, but I think that it actually works shockingly well in there. Because you can have a piano in a greenhouse, right? Yeah, why not? And now what I'm working on is making a little stool for it. So I went ahead and I made this little stool top out of some foam, and then I'm going to cut some little legs for it. Focus, focus. There we go, using some doweling. Gonna paint it up and make it look a little more woody. Gonna use the same fabric that I used for the lounge chair. And then I'm gonna do the little touches. So I'm gonna put a little sheet music on there with a Victorian song. I can't think of anything else to add right now, but I know I'm gonna think of something. So there's your update. Here she is, all done. And yes, I'm absolutely kneeling for this part so that the camera can get all of it in. So I am very pleased with it. I think it looks great. I mean, there are a few things I would change, but for my first time making a dollhouse, I think it was a pretty big success. A few things that I wanted to gush about were the 2 pieces of music on the piano. One is Silent Worship and the other is To the Evening Star. Silent Worship was a song that I sang on stage in Sense and Sensibility when I played Mary Ann Dashwood. Are you surprised? And To the Evening Star I also sang, but To the Evening Star is actually originally a poem that they set to music in the show. I can't remember who it's by. Maybe I'll put it here. No? Okay. And I also have a copy of Middlemarch sitting there on the settee, because Middlemarch, though it says it was written by George Eliot, it was actually written by a woman. George Eliot was her pen name. Victorian ladies are amazing. Yep, I've got some lights in there now, my little twinkle lights. Totally going to change things out depending on the season and the holidays. Yes, it's going to get very Halloween-y soon. And I think that's about it. I'm very happy with it. Yeah, I think that this looks as close to brass as I could get it. These look like bars, and I've got a little opening here at the top purposefully. Definitely purposefully, not because I made the posts a little bit too long. So anyways, if you give this a try yourself, I would love to see the outcomes. And until next time, stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, and hug your cat. Oh, and be kind to each other. See you later.
Our winter cold supply needs the clinging ivy vine. There's a